In this session, you are going to learn how to move objects around in a scene as part of scene setup. You will get much more experience with setting up a scene in Alice throughout this course. In this session, we'll demonstrate several different means to manipulate the objects as part of scene setup. You do not need to become an expert with all of these approaches. You just need to become comfortable with one of them. We'll start with the Snow People scene. So let's click on Setup Scene. There are two primary means to move and rotate objects in a scene: moving an object with the mouse or using some of Alice's pre-built instructions. Before an object can be moved, it needs to be selected. There are three ways to select an object: selecting the object in the object list at the upper left hand of the screen, clicking on the object with the mouse, or selecting the object from the drop-down list on the right side of the Alice window. Let's look at all three. Let's go ahead and click on Sue, technically this.Sue, in the object tree in the upper left of the window. So we see this.Sue, and we can click on this.Sue. Two important things happen. First, in the scene, a yellow ring appears around Sue. And in the frame on the right-hand side of the screen, this.Sue appears to be selected on the right-hand side. To practice with the other approaches, let's first click on the snowman in the center of the screen. In addition to the yellow ring moving from being around Sue to being around Frosty, we note that this.Frosty gets highlighted in the upper left of the screen, and this.Frosty gets selected on the frame on the right side of the screen. Let's now select this.Sue from the drop-down list in the frame on the right-hand side of the screen. So we'll scroll down and select this.Sue. Notice how the yellow ring appears back around Sue, and this.Sue is now selected in the object tree on the left. Let's try to move Sue to where she's standing behind Frosty. The first approach we'll use is with the mouse. Let's make sure that the handle side on the right-hand side of the screen is set to default. Setting the handle style to move also works. Personally, I like to see the yellow ring around the object that has been selected, so we'll generally use the default handle style. Now, with Sue selected, we can use the mouse to drag her to a position behind Frosty. On a map, there are three ways to undo something. You can select Edit and then Undo. So we scroll down to Edit and we can select Undo. A second way is to just press and hold the Command button. This is the key that is located both to the left as well as to the right of the spacebar. You only need to press and hold one of these keys, and then click on the Z key. A third way to undo the movement is to just click on the Undo button, which is at the top right of the window. So we can just simply click on the Undo button. You can also move Sue by means of an instruction. Well, actually two instructions. Immediately below this.Sue on the right frame is a drop-down button named One Shots. By clicking on this button, right here, we can select Procedures and then move to and select this.Frosty. So we simply scroll down and ask Sue to move to this.Frosty. This causes Sue to move to the exact same location where Frosty is. Then we click on One Shots one more time and Procedures and Move, and we can ask Sue to move backwards a distance of 2 units. Now Sue is standing exactly 2 units directly behind Frosty. In general, moving characters around is faster when dragging them with the mouse, and more precise when using the one-shot procedures. Next, let's turn both Frosty and Sue around, so that instead of facing the camera, their backs are to the camera. Let's click on Frosty. If we click on the yellow ring itself, we can cause Frosty to turn around, as shown here. So we simply click on the yellow ring and spin Frosty right around. Because Sue is directly behind Frosty, let's click on Sue in the object tree. So click on this.Sue in the object tree. Now, let's use the one-shot procedure to have Sue turn left half of a revolution. So one-shot, procedures, turn, ask Sue to turn left, half a revolution. Finally, let's move Frosty up into the air. We again select Frosty, click on Frosty, so the ring is around Frosty. Now, if we press down on the Shift key with the mouse, so I'm pressing on the Shift key with the mouse, we can raise Frosty up as if he is flying. There we go. Alternatively, we could have used the one-shot button and selected the procedure to have Frosty move in the up direction. While there are other ways to move objects in Alice, we have found these to be the most useful. If it turns out that one of these ways doesn't work to move objects, especially on the Mac, just save your project and restart Alice. Make sure to save your work when you are done. If you don't like some of the movements, you can just do one of the undo procedures to have all of your movements of Frosty and Sue undone.